There we go.
Well, welcome to the October 26th, 2021 session of TangerineSDR and Hamsci technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been working on a couple things. I did work on the P&I boards, got mine working. Found a few things that we might want to fix. We'll talk about that later. And also been working on trying to get Phil Karn's code working. So we're finding little glitches and bugs in there. So we're making some headway. So next on the list, we have Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much, Dave. I continued to work with Jonathan Rizzo this week, and we put junction boxes on the ends of our conduit. And so we're getting ready to hopefully install the VLF antennas and the ground magnetometer out here. I got that new ground magnetometer module from Scotty, and we're working on putting that together, having Majid work on that. Back to Net.
Fine business. And next on the list is Jim. Are you working? Is it working, Jim? You're
talking to this, Jim?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it seems to be working now. For some reason, the space bar was not unmuting me.
Okay.
Anyway, I've got it now. Well, I think I'd mentioned before I'd had a lot of trouble with losing data on my Grape. And it was either Bill or John, I've forgotten who, suggested that it was probably my SD card was going bad because it was not one of the ones people had found work well. So I just got one of the ones that works well, and I just got it in about half an hour ago. And so far so good, but we'll see about it. And let's see, I had said I was going to set up to do the RF recording of the 1 kilohertz. And for that, I needed several things, including a big hard drive. So I ordered a 3 terabit hard drive, but it will not be here for another week and a half. So I will not be able to start that data collection until I get that. That's about all from here. Back to Net.
Well, fine business. And well, Tom, do you want to go next? Tom McDermott's N5EG is up at the top of the list. Oh, Mike.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I need to ask Scotty a question. I've been working on the FPGA code, writing more of the LHDE protocol portion. It's interesting, the device locks up every other time I launch the code. I'm not quite sure what that is. Sounds like some kind of initialization problem. And I had an email to Scotty asking a couple of questions, but I haven't gotten a reply. Need to figure out how many I2C and SPI interfaces we need for the test bench. And so we need to remember to ask him when we get on. That's about it.
Okay, well, fine business. And let's see. Well, next on my list is Amartya Iyer, and he's a new person on our list, a friend of Dave Witten's. And I don't know if he knows. Can you unmute your mic?
Hello.
Welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome to the list. And I'm Dave Larson. And we're here just calling each person's name and acknowledging them, saying hi. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
And he's a student and would like to work with Dave Witten on probably a magnetometer project of some sort. So next on the list is Bill Engelkey, AB4EJ. Go ahead.
Okay, fine, Dave. Well, I'm playing around here, just working stations in the Far East on FT8. 20 meters is open to China and Pakistan, which is unusual. But anyway, project-wise, I've been struggling a little bit with my Grape. It seems that it complains that it cannot hit the UPS, the USB connection, and it seems that I think I'm having a problem with the Adafruit GPS board, because when I start up my Grape with the Adafruit GPS board on there, it complains that there's no USB adapter. You take it off and it seems to start up fine. Well, how did I get started with this? Well, I'm trying to get the system to run on Ubuntu 20.10.04, but because the newest version of Ubuntu that does not have support and all this and that. So struggling a little bit here. It's been slow going with that. Anyway, on a separate matter, working with Nathaniel on trying to figure out where we're going to have the Hamsci conference in the spring, with the possibility we may be able to have it in Huntsville if we can get the numbers to work out money-wise. So that's how it goes here.
Maybe I should say something about that really quickly,
Okay,
because
go ahead.
no one knows that. So the original plan was to have it in Scranton, but let's just say that I got a call from the hotel this week that was saying that at the same time that we are having our Hamsci workshop, they just got booked for a simultaneous event that is of significantly greater security implications. and it I'm not going to say who or what is coming, but let me just say our assessment of the situation is that it will not be feasible to have any of our events within a 5-block radius of that hotel.
Services involved.
So we need to find an alternative venue, and so I'm working with Bill on doing that. So
okay,
so we'll look to coming to Scranton in the year 2023, I think. But maybe in 2022, it might be in Huntsville. So we'll let you know.
Okay.
We shall see. We're working it.
Okay. Well, next on the list is Dev KC3 PVI. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
PVE. Sorry.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So we had a good start of the week here, and I'm making preparation to book my hotel for AGU, and I'm excited about that. And everything else is well, I think. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Next on the list is Dan, the N4XWE, and I want to congratulate both him and Scotty on being elected to the board of directors of Tapper. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, that was, I won't say it was a surprise, but I'm happy I was on the board previously and enjoyed the time I spent there. Decided not to run for re-election about 6 years ago, and I'm back after a 6-year absence. So, well, with the Hamsci project and other things going on, it should be an interesting time at Tapper. Excuse me. So anyway, that's about it from here. Back to you, Dave.
Fine business. And next on the list, I gotta I guess is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, yes, I guess I haven't spoken. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I've been working on several small projects, but I've also been kind of upgrading some equipment or setting up some equipment. And so I'm staring at this monstrous monitor behind the one that actually I should look at if I'm talking to you, but trying to stay busy, trying to see about a project for Amartya. He's an interested high school student who's interested in the magnetometry aspects of this, and I've got several ideas, but be willing to discuss them with anybody who has any suggestions. That's it for me.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Dave McGaw, N1HAC. Go ahead, Dave.
Good evening, everyone. I've been pretty busy this week with various radio-related projects having to do with both ends of the Earth. Stuff for Antarctica, stuff for Baffin Island, and God knows everything in between. So back to net.
Well, good. And next on the list is David Waugh, KE8QEP. Go ahead, David.
Well, hello to everyone tonight. I've been, well, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I helped Bob align his magnetometer, and I've been using Bob's plotting program, and I think I posted something to the list earlier or later today. We've been comparing our results. I only have a crude comparison up right now, but they seem to be tracking fairly well, which we would expect. And just as a reminder to people who have plaster walls, never try to cut into your plaster wall thinking it's going to go smoothly. It's always and back to that.
I also see you have some help there in the room with you today. Next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Been here in the new house now for a couple of 2-3 months, getting a lot of my projects completed. So starting to turn back to ham radio a little bit. Just started this evening putting the Tapper Whisper transmitter together, creating an image and all that sort of stuff. And we're done with the telecon tonight. I'll put the card in, SD card in, boot it up, and we'll see what happens. So back to net.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is Hyomin Kim, KD2MCR. Go ahead, Hyomin.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, nothing so much to report other than we're still looking at data for scientific investigations. Otherwise, yep, we're just moving along. Actually, just now the nor'easter just arrived here, so it's getting louder and louder. Thunderstorm and heavy rain right now. So
yes,
hope everybody will be okay. So back to net.
Well, good luck with that. We had that last night. So next on the list, we have James, KG4DSG. Go ahead, James.
Good evening, Dave and the group. Not much to report. I posted a link on the chat. Heard this weekend that Raspberry Pi is now having a price increase due to chip shortage. They don't expect it to be permanent, but I expect it probably will be. With that, back to the net.
Well, fine business, or not a fine business, but thanks for your report. And next on the list is John Ragland. You have any comment?
Well, at this time, I'm just interested in learning if the local temporary magnetic anomalies will get filtered out.
Well, I have to leave that to some of the magnetic specialists. I don't know. So let's continue down the list. Next on the list is Jonathan Rizzo, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I had a fairly busy week. I helped out Nathaniel with the conduit install. We got all the junction boxes installed. I'm really happy with how nice everything came out. Everything looks really clean and neat. We just have to put a backing on the larger junction box outside in the field. Like a little post. And then we'll get to install the antenna and the magnetometer, and then all the electronics on the inside. I had luck with my system. I was playing around more with the timing, and I was able to get the timing fairly stable again. It's weird because when you I first run the capture program and the timing program right at boot up, or right after boot up, and everything kind of behaves. As the system heats up, and I close the programs, and then I rerun them with some different runtime options, then the timing doesn't work. But I could keep on running the timing program, just letting it go, and it still stays stable. So I thought that drift was an issue, but I'm not really sure. So what I had planned on doing was doing the timestamp calibration. That's where you have to take a measurement, or you connect the GPS pulse per second through a cap, and on the output will be 2 pulses, the leading edge and the falling edge, and you have to find the offset between just when the leading edge starts to rise and the nearest second mark in the timestamp, and you could put that offset into the runtime options of the timing program, and that will correct your timestamps. But I had an unfortunate thing. I was running the system with the cover on, and it rebooted last night. So and it was getting very hot with the cover on, and I don't have any fan in there or anything, so I'm probably gonna have to run this with the cover off. It's kind of a bummer because I really like the status LEDs, but maybe I could put them on the side or something like that. Anyway, that's all I have. Back to the net.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is Jules, K2KGJ. Go ahead, Jules.
Good evening, group. I saw David Dog's friend, and I thought I'd invite our Beagle Cross here to come up and join us, Sparky. A number of projects this week, some on the bench and some outside, getting ready for the winter season here. On the programming project, still in progress on some of those. Some emails back and forth with David, and also regarding the new board from Scotty. I have one board operating as a local board. So far, no problems. It seems to be working very well. I haven't tried the remote end yet, but as far as the new adapter boards go, the one I have is working fine. Back to net.
Fine business. And next on the list is Michael, AAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Dave, and greetings to everyone listening. I knew I should have ordered the Raspberry Pi. What's a good configuration for the magnetometer and for the full Tangerine? How much memory? Which Raspberry Pi?
Actually, any of the probably any with 2 megs will do nicely, the Pi 4. And they are available from Canakit at the moment. I ordered one Friday, CANAKIT. They kind of want you to buy a whole bundle with the power supply and the cords you need, but you need that stuff anyway. And they have a pretty good reputation for having decent power supplies and things like that. So, but it's a Canadian company, but they seem to ship quickly enough inside this in the States too. So they're one of the more quality distributors, and they have one gig and 2 gig RAM versions.
I should mention, if you want to have something that's going to be ready for use with the Tangerine, you probably want the 4 gig version, if you can get it.
Yeah, I don't think there are any of those available as far as I know.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Back to you, Dave.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is Robinette. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, are you? I'm in the car and mostly just lurking. I'm, as usual, busy with my Whisper stuff. I've been struggling with KPH, getting them back on the air. So that's my major focus the last few weeks.
Very good. Keep up the good work. Next on the list is Scotty, WA2DFI. Go ahead, Scotty. And Scotty also, I don't know if you heard me congratulate Dan, but congratulate to you for being reelected.
Yes, thank you very much. Our condolences are in order, whatever you're thinking of. But yeah, it's good to have Dan back on the board again after an absence. I'm glad he passed muster, and we'll get some good stuff done. And not a lot to report this week. I haven't really been feeling that well. I've been trying to get my bicycle set up to get on and do some exercise before I fall over dead. I've got to do some of that, and it's got to become a priority, like radio stuff. So anyway, I'm interested in to hear the feedback on the magnetometer boards, to see if there are any problems, anything we should pay attention to before we go and make lots and lots and lots of these. So maybe we could talk about that in the free-for-all. So back to you, Dave.
Yes, I do have some suggestions on that, and as well as some other people. And what you can do, Scotty, to incentivize your bicycle is hook a generator to it, and then you can run your radio from the bicycle.
Oh, I have 20 amp hours of batteries and a D700 that I'm going to install on the bike, and I'll have a 50-watt radio. So just don't talk to me about RF exposure, because I'm going to have to build like a metal wall between the back of the bike and me to make sure I'm not overexposed. So normally I'll be running 1 watt or 10 watts. The 50 watts is just for emergencies in case I can't get through. So
well,
anyway,
very good.
It's going to be fun.
That's
got to make it fun, otherwise you won't do it.
Yes.
You can operate CW from the bike?
Yeah. Well, I guess I could, but not yet.
Well, let's go on.
You have to have the potholes in the right place.
That's right.
We'll finish the list here. Next, we have Todd AD0RR. Go ahead, Todd. I'm not hearing your voice. The mic, try again now. Is anybody hearing them?
Nope.
No.
How's this work?
That works.
That's good.
Hi, stupid Windows. Yeah, I suggested iambic handbrakes on the bike to do more.
Yeah, and then you have to pedal harder the more code you do, because
And more exercise. So, you know,
right.
yeah. So, and to Jim, I think Jim ordered that drive like the day after I did, and they said it was going to be here sometime at the end of next week, and I got it today. So don't believe the shipping dates. It might show up on your doorstep. So.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Because I was settling into another week and a half of waiting.
I know. Yeah, I was almost tempted to order the 1 terabyte just because it would show up in 2 days. But anyway, so yeah, you should be seeing it. Yeah, so I've been working on a shielded loop antenna with a preamp, the W7 IUV preamp, to try and I have a 10-meter dipole up now for my Grape, and I wanted something looking forward to looking at multiple frequencies. And
I finally got it up to the point where I can pick up anywhere from 2.5 to 20. It's not as good as my big antenna, but it's definitely better than the dipole. So I'm ready there. And I guess that's it. I got my drive today, so I'm going to start converting the Grape over to the next experiment. And I'm interested in the magnetometer. I got my magnetometer a couple days ago too, but I know that the boards are not really out there yet, so I'm looking forward to availability of the boards so I can get that thing going too. So anyway, I guess that's about it. Back to Net.
We're working on it. We'll get something out soon. And let's see, next on the list, we had Tom. So it's Tom Yarnish. I don't know if you have any comments. Usually just lurks. Nothing's changing on his microphone, so I think he's just listening. So with that, unless I missed somebody, names were jumping around, so it's possible.
Yeah, W7LDUX got here late.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Not a whole lot going on here. Scotty, I did check with our local Home Depot. They do not have any short pieces of that white PVC any larger than 1 1/4. So you'd have to buy a 10-foot section of the 1 1/2 to mount those magnetometers. Also, Scotty, beware of bicycles with generators attached. I work very closely with an emergency manager here. And when he was younger, he went to a field day and asked what he could do. Somebody pointed at the bicycle. I said, jump on, start pedaling. So he jumped on, start pedaling. Hey, this is easy. Then the guy flipped the switch that connected the battery to the generator. Take care, everybody. Back to you, Dave.
Very good. Well, that's it. And I guess we're open for general discussion.
Did you get Tom McDermott?
Yes,
Yeah.
he was before you came in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was somehow my video popped up to the top of the list unexpectedly. Scotty, did you get my emails?
I think so. I've been kind of lax on email this week. I think I thought it was some good news, so I postponed it for a time when I was feeling better.
Okay. Yeah, quick question. I looked at the adapter schematic for the dev kit, and I'm trying to count the number of I2C and SPI interfaces I need.
Okay.
And I've come up with 5 I2C and 1 SPI to support the clock and the receiver modules. Is that the correct count?
5 I2Cs?
Yes.
There's an ID and there is a expander, and then there's a SPI module. Where are the other I2Cs?
Well, let's see, the receiver has 2 of them, one for the PROM and one for turning the relays on and off.
Right.
Okay, and the clock module, the adapter shows 3 separate I2C interfaces.
Sorry, I missed the part where you included the clock module. Yes, you're right.
Okay, so is 5 of those and 1 SPI the correct number?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember.
I will go ahead and build it that way.
Okay.
Thank you for the answer.
It's all right. And you should have the pins on the schematic.
I do not have the schematic of the clock. I only have the schematic of the receiver, whose names don't match the names on the adapter schematic.
But there is a clock module connector on the adapter schematic, and it should have names on it.
It does. The receiver also has names, but one of the I2Cs has names like differential data and things like that.
Yeah, I'm going to fix that.
And so I wasn't sure my count was correct.
Yeah, this week I'm planning to start CAD on the adapter board.
Okay.
And the one thing I forgot to mention was that of the 2 parts that we were short on the data engine.
Yeah.
One of them was the FPGA. The other one was the USB 3 part.
Okay.
USB 3 parts came in yesterday, so we've got them now.
Okay.
So now we're just missing the 1 part.
Okay.
You want to say something, Jules?
No.
Oh, well, I thought I ran over somebody.
Nope.
Anyway, that part came in, so now we're down to 1.
Okay.
So Scotty, are we ever going to see MAX10s?
I'm going to call up my provider again tomorrow and rag on him because I haven't talked to him since they basically put everything on hold and pushed them all out to 99 weeks. So you don't get any idea of when you're going to get your parts. So, but I got the microchip part or the FTDI parts. So I'll use that as a club saying, well, if FTDI can make parts, why can't you guys?
That's the Ethernet part, right?
That's the USB 3 part.
USB 3, right?
MAX10FPGA or whatever it's called.
Hmm.
The one
What's
I could have left off if I had
But
to.
yeah, the one we didn't need.
Right, but
So,
now
so
we
the
got it.
one we need is unobtainium.
Yeah, so far.
What is the status of the adapter board for the MAX10 eval boards?
Getting ready to go to CAD this week.
Oh, good.
Schematic's all done. Tom's checked it over. I got to make some changes on the names, and then I want to put it up to let everyone look at before I get too far down. But I want the CAD guy can start on it by making getting a read and making all the decals, and so we can get rolling on that because we got funding to do that. We got we're ready. It's just my lazy butt that is holding us up.
Where are the RF cards?
The RF cards are sitting, waiting to be built. All the parts are here.
Oh, excellent.
And same thing with the clock modules. Even the GPSs are here. So we've got everything for those. Although it looks like there was a suggestion, I don't remember from whom, but they suggested that we might want to move the mounting hole on the clock module over to the center of the connector because we put it in the corner. And he's thinking that since the board's an 031 thick board, it's a thin board because it has to be that way because of the connector. He's thinking that we might get a torque on the board and eventually get bad connections between some of the pins. So I think that idea has merit. And so it's going to require a little bit of juggling on the part of the CAD guy to move the hole over to the middle and move the stuff out of the way where the hole goes. And part of the rationale was to make sure the hole was offset so you couldn't put an SSD in, right? Because it looks different. Well, come on, it already looks different. And if you want to put an SSD in there, you get what you deserve because you obviously don't know what you're doing. So it's, I mean, really just because it's not, I remember working for an outfit that made semiconductor process equipment and they used to run 220 volts on DB9s.
Oh boy.
And I mean, can you imagine, plugging one of those into a computer with 220 on it, what it would do?
I think the technical term is kerpoof.
Kerpoof, yeah. And what was it somebody told me they saw on the PC board? They said every piece of gear is a smoke generator if it's not used properly or something.
Yeah, something like that.
We've
So
got adapters that put 120 volts on coax cable, but that's a little bit different.
Yeah, but on DB9 mixed in with digital signals, I mean, what are you thinking here? I don't even think the connectors are rated for a 220. So
Scotty, I have a report on my magnetometer board builds.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'll start off. So I built the outbound part first, and that went together just fine. Only soldering that I did was the RJ45 and then the P&I pins. And I did basically what you suggested of putting the pins in and then laying the board on and soldering them up. So
Okay.
no problem. And I actually connected that up to my Rev D board and it worked fine.
Okay.
That's what I did here too. I connected it to the existing board.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then I built the inbound inside board, and for that one I ran into a couple of issues. The first big issue that I found was the 40-pin header. With the part that you gave us, it was extremely difficult to solder the pins adjacent to the P&I connector.
Yeah, I had to use a very fine tip iron here too for the same thing.
Yeah.
I took
what
a
I've done
different.
on those is I actually solder. I put the iron in between the outer row of pins to get to the
Right.
inner row.
Yes. But I'm going to suggest that for people who haven't a lot of soldering experience, that's going to be difficult.
Well, so here's a suggestion is that I believe, and I have to look at the schematic, but I believe that you can pretty much leave all those pins unsoldered because they're not.
There's
used.
one in there, 17.
There's one, and that's probably the prom.
Yeah, it's
ID,
a
right?
3-volt line.
Why do you need the 40 pin connector on the board with the PNI chip?
You don't, but the both boards have PNI header parts on them.
Yes, but the one out
Okay.
inbound, the one that's plugs into your Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
Yeah, that
or
needs a 40
whatever,
pin
you
header.
need
So,
that
so
connector.
let me explore the part about how where.
Well, let
on-
me
on
give you
one-
my solution.
Okay.
I
Okay.
decided to cut all the pins off shorter. And
I
that
was gonna
works
say,
fine.
right. You could just use a short pin header too.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
used a short pin header, that part will be no problem soldering.
But then if you want to use it on a Grape, for instance, that uses.
Well,
a
it has
board
to be the
stacked
top
above,
board then.
Has to be the top board. The other thing I was thinking is we could actually make two versions of the board and we could leave the PNI headers off of the inboard one.
You
And you
could,
could just solder that on that
Yes.
particular board.
and then I went back to the Rev D board and realized it was no problem on that one because we had through hole on the PNI headers and those solder from the bottom.
Right.
Yes.
So that
but-
was
but-
easy.
But the 40 pin header, the only reason you didn't have a problem is because it came pre-soldered.
Well, or you could solder it ahead of time and then turn it
Right.
over.
Right.
That would,
except
that would be the reason. I got close to desoldering one of the PNI headers just to.
Well, you
make
could
it
just
better.
cut the PNI header off with a pair of dikes because it's not used on the
Right.
local one.
Right.
So
But I decided not to do that since this
Yeah.
was a.
the
a
reason that
testing
we
one.
don't do that is because then all the boards are manufactured exactly alike.
Right, that was the advantage and we were
But
trying
I'm
to.
thinking it's not necessarily an advantage because I can have them run, if we're going to run 500 boards, we could run 250 with and 250 without. And we'd save the money
Yes.
on the headers as
Yes.
well.
Yes,
So
but I think you could send them short pin headers. And.
short pin
that would
headers are
be
way
just-
cheaper.
Yeah,
That's an expensive header. That's a $3 header to
yeah,
supply that. Whereas the short pin ones are like, $1.25.
yeah,
So, and when you're talking, you say, well, it's only $1. Well, the whole bomb's only like $6. So
yes.
that's an extra 15% on top of the
So I
bomb.
think the short-term header is fine. Then the other thing I found I think most people are going to find the jumpers for the addresses. I mean, it's not confusing for those of us that have
Well-
been using these for a while.
You don't
but I
have the
think-
instruction manual yet
Yes.
because those are not supposed to be installed except by the diehard experimenters. They aren't
Right.
used.
And
That
so,
wasn't obvious, right?
so the biggest issue here is that the default pins shift from 23, 1E, 1F on the 3, on the E, and it was 23, 18, 19 on the D. Now, most people aren't going to have seen a D, but we do need to change the software default.
I thought that the software you could change it.
Yeah, the software will accept any address for the local temperature, the remote temperature, and the RM 3100.
Yes, and that does work, and that's what I'm running, or I was running, but I switched back. I haven't built one in a tube outside yet, but I can't imagine if they work on my bench.
Well, the other thing that we could do is we could just not include the header. I mean, I was being kind and including the header for Jules' benefit because I know he likes to build large arrays of these
Well,
things.
it's very nice, but I sat and tried all the different combinations just to see if what you
Yeah.
said in the document was correct.
I think anyone who's going to have use of those other addresses is probably going to have 2 rows of 3-pin or whatever it is headers lying around on their desk.
So we don't need to supply them in the kit then.
We might have a separate pack little bundle that you could buy for $5 that would have long pin header and you know, all the
And the jumpers,
variations, you know, or else point him to Adafruit or somebody who does sell all that stuff.
Well, the thing is that I would prefer to have it so that the normal person who's just buying one to put on the air gets everything that they need.
Yes.
Now, the experimenters, you're on your own. You know what you're doing. You probably have it in your junk box already. But the people who don't, and I mean, that's kind of why we included the address jumpers, but nobody's going to use those unless you're going to wire multiple ones on one wire. So it's not, that's probably a bad idea to include them because it implies that you should install them somewhere. And in fact, maybe it's, did I include the 10-pin headers also?
Yes.
And that's probably not
one of them.
And if we're going to make the in-ground unit use a assembled Cat5 cable with RJ45 connectors on the ends, we do not need the headers at all, so don't include them.
Right.
For those people who want to cut the ends off and do experimentation, then fine, you can do that.
Jules likes to do that.
But Jules probably has all that stuff in stock already.
Yes.
So okay,
but he probably appreciates the through hole pins, although you had the through hole.
The holes are there. I can't delete those.
They don't cost anything.
I could fill them with epoxy. Okay.
Yeah, it's
well,
convenient.
Removing optional parts is good because everything you take away makes the cost a little bit less.
I really want it to be where somebody with not a huge amount of soldering experience can be successful.
Yeah.
Dave Larson,
Yes.
did you get my email regarding the
Yes,
orientation?
I did. And I agreed with everything, so I didn't bother to reply.
Yeah, because the flipping it over basically 180 from what it is now, you still exchange Z and X, but then everybody is the signs get negated on everything, which makes it really simple.
Yeah.
So as far as putting the board in the bottom of the tube and getting it centered, one of the things that I came up with as a suggestion was we've got holes in the four corners of the board and they're all symmetrical on both the X and Y axes. What I suggest is that we use nylon hardware and we put fiber washers above and below the board with a nylon washer through and have the fiber washers be like a 1/4 inch diameter so they stick out past the edge of the board. And they would just deform and you just jam the thing in the bottom and you can orient it so that it's straight across and at the largest diameter of the pipe, the largest point of the pipe, and it will just stay there. And there's no gluing of strips in. There's no trying to find those little bitty nylon strips. There's no brackets that we have to 3D print. It's cheap. Will it work though? Is it going to be robust enough to keep the thing properly aligned? And how accurately does it have to be aligned? Because Dave's 3D printed piece is going to align it exactly. These will probably be a little bit variable, but I really, all the other solutions, the 3D printed ones still look too expensive to me, Dave. If I could get them, 2 for $1, I'd be happy. But it's looking like they're going to be like $4 a piece, and that's too much.
Yeah. Well, as an experiment, I had a bunch of, there were telescope filters for my brother as Christmas present. I had some of them made from one of the Chinese manufacturers, and everything ended up more expensive than it started out by about, it ended up about 150% or so. So I ended up buying, $30 filter holders for these telescope filters because he's into spectroscopy, and he's very happy with the result. I thought they were well made, but there's no guarantee it's real. That the prices are real. I might have been able to get them cheaper domestically, actually. It looked in the end, but I didn't pursue that because I was spending too much already.
So what do you think about the fiber washers as the centering?
I'm not sure I understood all of that. The fiber washers, I understand you're talking about putting nylon holes, screws through the holes, and watch out, nylon screws will cost you a bunch, in my experience.
I've had trouble finding 440 nylon also.
I don't ever use, I always use metric, but I usually buy them directly from somebody on Alibaba or somebody, because they're,
McMaster Car carries them in stock too.
I'm sorry,
McMaster Car,
yeah, do they,
yeah, they have.
they have
They
them. There's
usually are
questions
not
what
that
the price-
cheap, though.
Yeah, well, they're
Well,
they're
no,
not,
that's true.
they're competitive, but they're certainly great to buy
Oh.
from.
So the question then is, could we use brass screws, which are probably going to be even more expensive, but we probably can't use steel ones, right?
Right.
Because of the magnetometer.
Brass should be okay. I think I get the washer picture. Basically, they're larger in diameter so that they protrude past the edge of the board, and
Right, so
therefore the
PC
board
board,
will
washer,
jam into the, yeah,
washer,
right.
bolt, nut, and then they make them wider so they hang over the edge of the board and they're deformable. So
Mhm.
as you push it in the pipe, they're going to mash down and keep it tight.
Right. The only question is, will the plastic or whatever we use flow with time and therefore loosen up in the pipe?
The washer or the PVC?
The washer, specifically the washer. Because I'm assuming that the washer hole is such that it's a fairly tight fit around the screw. So that part's not going to move much, but will the washer itself, as it deform more plastic deformation during its lifetime and kind of loosen up in the pipe? And that's the only way you can do is test that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a possible idea.
So then
And-
the question is that going to give us enough accuracy? How
Well-
accurate does it actually have to be?
Well,
as
you
far
want to
as-
you want to get as far as the vertical goes. You want to get thing that is aligned with the vertical axis of the pipe. You want to get it as within a couple of degrees, no
So
more than that.
It's not really rotation, it's tilt then. It's
Right.
vertical.
Right.
Okay.
As far as as far as that, the rotation you can always compensate forward when you do the y-axis adjustment by rotating the whole pipe.
The other thought I had was when I was down at Home Depot, they sell foam pipe cover for
Yes.
1/2-inch copper pipe. Well, it turns
Right.
out that
Yes.
1/2-inch copper foam cover fits exactly snug fit in the 1.5-inch
Right.
PVC.
Yes, you're right. I'm using that for a circulation block above the unit, between the unit
So-
and it has a nice hole in it, allows you to run the cable right through.
So if we were to do that, suppose that we were to take the piece of pipe foam and cut off a 2-inch piece, and then we were to slice it vertically, but don't slice it in half. Slice it in 60-40%. So you get an arc coming from up here all the way around, but it's small arc cut on the top. And then what you would do is you would set the board on top of it, and the foam would push the board up, so it would be against the pipe. So it would not be centered in the pipe, but it would be vertical because all 2 long edges would be tight against the pipe.
Yeah, you don't have to center it. In fact, that's essentially what I do. Even though I put those plastic strips in,
And-
I still use a foam block to push it down against those strips and hold it in line with the pipe. So yeah, that would
And
do it.
that stuff's incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that's what I do with my current
Have you seen
installation.
any deterioration over time of the?
No, but the current one I haven't taken it apart for a while, but there's been no water in it.
Yeah, because the thing is, I could get a 6-foot piece of that for $1.50 and
Right.
cut it into, and we get volunteers to do this. Or, I mean, we could just cut a 2-inch piece and let the user, when they build it, slice it vertically.
Slice
And I
it,
think
yes.
if you got a T-square and an X-Acto knife, you can get it smooth enough. Because it
Yes.
really doesn't need to be that smooth, because you're just going to keep it pushed up against the pipe.
Right.
And the
Yes.
pipe's what's going to keep it vertical.
Yep.
So maybe that's a better solution. It's much cheaper than washers.
Yes.
And yeah, okay. Well, I'll try. I've got all the pieces now. I'm going to try that this week and see if I can make it work. I'll take some photos and send them out to you guys. And
Jules is what is it, Plastistrut, or actually did work well because it sort of self-aligns in the pipe with the board. And I suppose the only difficulty there would be the glue. And I
Yeah.
bought glue that Jules specified, which, it wasn't a big deal for me.
but if you were to put them on the board, put a little glue on them, stick them in the pipe, and then push it up as far as you could so that it touched the pipe evenly all up and down, would that be a method to install it?
Well, I just followed Jules's instructions and, slid the board in with the strut and then dropped the glue in. But, maybe if you could do that with just super glue, that would make it more accessible and
Yeah, the
easier.
only thing you got to watch is that you don't accidentally super glue the board to the plastruct.
Wow.
The only reason the plastruct is in there actually is to have an alignment point
Yes.
that, you pull a board out and put it back in again, it's going to be aligned the way it was relative to whatever mark you put on the outside of the pipe that identifies the north-south line. But if you don't care, if if that's close, you're going to make your final adjustment in the y-axis anyway when it's in the ground by rotation. As long as it's aligned axially with the pipe, which it would be, Scotty, if you just use that foam,
Well, so here's the
without
thing
anything
you can
else, it
do.
should be fine.
Part of the instructions would be to install the board with the foam, put it in, and then take your India ink pen, your Sharpie, and
Yeah.
mark where the board is. So that
You can do that.
install it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That would get you close enough, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Because again, you're going to do the final adjustment when it's in the ground.
Okay. So the only other question, and I think Jules, you had an answer for me last week, and have you measured the thread pitch on?
Oh, darn,
the-
I forgot. I forgot to take the thread gauge out and check the pitch. I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, because I'm hoping that I may be, dreaming or on drugs or something. I think that we could get something that might thread into a PVC thread, or at least thread into an adapter that threads into a PVC thread. And so we could just eliminate drilling altogether. We can just thread the bulkhead connector right into the PVC pipe, put some Teflon tape on it, and you're done. Now,
That'd
whether
be
that
handy.
work, I mean, I can't find any information on any of these adapters that says what the thread size is.
Yeah, I
So-
haven't seen it either. No.
but it looks like it might thread into a 1-inch piece of pipe, which means we could get a 1.5 reducer T with threads and thread it right into the small part. And I'm doubtful that it's going to be the right thread, but once you start getting into things like that, what you could actually do, you could just use PVC glue on the threads.
Yeah.
And just
Yes.
screw it in and then say, okay, it doesn't matter. You won't have to take it apart ever, that part.
Right.
Okay, so you just thread it together and glue it, and it's done.
And a lot of the pipe glands, if you just want the cable to go out, they have pipe threads. And so that's easier. And that's what I have currently. But then I have a separate splice junction
Well,
out farther.
the bulkhead connector has threads for the cap on the outside, and it has threads for what you're going to thread. What was going to threads for the nut on the inside. So
Yes.
normally you drill a hole and you put it through, and then you put the nut on. But
But
typically,
and I'm talking about the connectors that just crimp or have a rubber seal for a
Yes.
cable coming out. And so it's not the RJ45 bulkhead connection.
it's just
And those are just regular pipe thread. And so you can thread them into some adapter.
okay.
But then still, then you need, depending on your situation, you need a separate splice somewhere else.
But we could
So-
get an inline RJ45 splice that has no threads or anything on it. It's just a metal box with the connectors in each end, and just stick that down in the middle of the pipe and have the cable come out, and then have your they call it a gland nut, right? That crimps
Yeah.
down,
Right.
crimps the rubber down. And you said they have that threads into NPT type pipe.
Yeah,
thread?
and that's what I'm using now, but I don't have the separate connection in the pipe. I have it outside the pipe a few feet.
Okay, yeah, in fact, we could do that because I've seen those that have gland nuts on either side, right? That's what you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes, they do exist. I have some.
Yeah. It's
But
not as clean, but it's easy.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's best.
Yeah. So when you guys put your T on top of the pipe, do you actually PVC glue that or just RTV it?
No, I PVC glue my T on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just the only
Everything else works.
only reason not to use PVC is if you want to take it apart or save the part
Right.
without cutting it.
right. I'm just thinking that if you run your cable from your shack into through the gland nut, through the NPT fitting, into the interior of your pipe, you're going to want to be able to change that wire. So you're going to have to be able to get at that. Now, I guess what you could do is you could take the bottom out and you could pull your board out and you could feed the wire all the way through and unhook it from the board.
Well, the other thing,
It is
Scotty,
more-
is the other thing, Scotty, is there are relatively inexpensive couplings, RJ male to RJ, they're basically RJ female to RJ female internally, with glands that then seal the cable itself, and it's about an assembly. It's about 6 inches long, and you know, if you run a piece of cable, let's say out of the pipe 3 or 4 feet, you can put one of these connectors in.
Yeah.
And tie that to your main line into the house. And when you want to take everything out, just disconnect that coupler and pull the whole thing out, and you leave your long cable run in place.
You might be a 6-foot cable that runs from the PC board up through the gland nut out to 3 feet out.
Right.
And then you put this coupler on it, and then you hook to your 100-foot cable that goes into the house.
Yeah. I had to do that to
But that's
extend
what-
my
that's what
100-foot
Dave-
cables,
Dave was
actually.
mentioning, I think.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did.
Right.
And I would have run the gel-filled direct burial cable right to the board, but that cable was stiff enough. I
Yeah.
didn't feel that it would be a good idea to have that going to the board. So I had just some regular shielded cable going out to the connector that Jules was talking about, and it's actually,
Yeah.
so
that-
a little sprinkler vault. But
That gland nut that you run the cable through, is it large enough to fit an RJ45 connector through? When you take the gland nut off?
the one I used, it was not. So I had to connectorize it.
Because
And that's a whole other thing, because
yeah.
I had to go buy a new crimper and
So
shielded.
so then Dave and Jules, the ones that you guys use that are that you put in a hole and put a nut on the inside,
Mhm.
has a gland nut and a rubber ring on the outside.
Yes.
Can you take a cable with the connector on it and put that rubber over it and get it through the nut and inside? Or do you have to cut the end off and remount the connector?
I'm not sure I follow you on that, Scotty.
So the one I have has an RJ45 back to back.
Yes, right.
And
So the inside
then,
one's no problem. It's got a nut on it. The cable
Yeah.
comes down, but the outside one's got to be waterproofed, right?
It is, yeah. But the outside one has a thread, and the connector that screws onto it also has a gland nut on it. a
Right,
Rubber
but can you
compression
get-
gland nut, and then a washer as you tighten everything up. So
So
it's
can you get
waterproof
the ca-
outside.
Can you get the cable through that gland nut opening with the connector on it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the back end of the housing is designed so that it will work with a cable with a connector on it already.
Big enough that it fits through.
Yeah, in
Okay.
fact, the gland, I shouldn't say nuts, the gland washers are split, so you can just pop them
Yes.
over the cable.
Oh, okay. And then when you put it in, it has a bunch of fingers that when you screw the nut down, the fingers.
Yeah, everything
Yes.
compresses and that's it. Yep.
and
Yeah.
it compresses it.
Yeah. So
Now,
ideally, we'd like to have one of those that would screw right into the pipe fitting, but I think that's, not going to happen because it'd have to be NPT threads.
Yeah, I haven't found one with it. Well, again, again, it's not,
So-
it does not look like an NPT thread. It looks like a
NPT
standard
threads-
thread.
And I
NPT
think
threads are tapered.
Right.
the glands I was using were pipe thread, but the adapters had enough of a gap between the thread that I probably did not get enough purchase between the threads on the adapter and the gland. And I did all kinds of things with silicone and tape, and
You couldn't
I
screw it
made
down
it
tight
work.
enough.
And it's been a few days totally submerged in water and seemed to be
Uh-oh.
fine, but
So you
but
couldn't get
it-
the
it
gland
was
nut
not-
down tight
it was
enough.
not ideal.
You couldn't get the gland nut screwed down tight enough because there weren't enough threads.
Yeah,
That-
there weren't enough threads, and I mean, I got it to work, and obviously it did okay being submerged, but it was, and I could have sanded down or, put it on a
Yeah.
lathe and did things, but that doesn't help anyone here.
So those connectors that I was using were from the cable place in Missouri.
Is
Mhm.
that Show Me
Okay.
Cables? Is that the
Yes.
guy? because I've stumbled across his internet page, and there are a whole
And he had
bunch,
two kinds, one for $15 and one for $20.
Mhm.
and the $20 one, is that the double one?
Both
That
of
has-
them are double.
Well, one of them
One
has,
is higher quality than the other.
oh, okay. But the ones that you were looking at only have weatherproof caps on one end.
Oh, I got
Is-
ones that have it on both ends.
So is the thread, okay, is it?
But
so,
the threaded part is relatively short, so it can't go through a thick wall, but it can go through a panel.
But you made your own thin washer, right? For it to
Yes.
go through?
Yes.
Okay. But so then you have
This one,
yeah, and now that's thin enough that you can put the
and that's PVC.
So did that come with a nut then?
No,
Instead of having the cap, the weatherproof part?
it came with a nut that would, so you drill like a 3/4 inch hole, and it would,
Right.
and it had rubber gaskets and threads, but it only was about it wasn't even a 1/4
Like
inch on
3/8
each
or
side.
yeah, 3/16 threads
Yeah.
of threads.
Yes.
But normally then you would not put the nut on it. You just thread the waterproof cap on the thing, right?
Well, the water cap goes on top of that.
Okay, so there's
So
enough. thread for
there's
the
one
nut-
part that structurally holds the connectors firmly in place, and the other part covers them for waterproofing.
Okay, this is gonna have to have a picture.
So do you use, Dave, do you use the cap on both sides or just the outside?
I actually put them on both sides, but I do it differently. I have a T, a three-way T.
Okay, right.
And then I have this inside. So you have PVC pipe
Hmm.
and then a connector that fits over it.
Right, okay.
And then that is, I took, it's a 90-degree elbow. It's actually a 45-degree elbow, but it was a 90 straight 90,
Mhm.
or a bend straight bend. I cut the straight part in half, so that makes a rain shield.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
water can't, it has to go up to get into it.
So you forced a drip loop by turning the cable downward.
Yes. Yeah, it's like what David is showing.
This is just the gland, so it,
Right.
Yes,
you
that's
can
what
no
I have.
connector.
What's
And so
what's
this
the
is-
size of that one? Usually it's on the hexagonal part.
Well, the thread is national pipe thread 1/4 inch.
Yeah,
And
but
so
the
that's what I,
gland, usually the gland itself has a size stamped on the
Well,
hexagonal part,
yeah, I don't see that there.
the
but
lower, the
it-
small, low, where your fingers are. Okay,
Yeah, I just have 1/4 inch national
Okay.
pipe thread. Now,
okay,
if there are some test plugs for PVC pipe that plumbers can put in when they're pressure testing,
Mhm.
and those are much thinner. So then you could actually maybe just run a nut through that. But the reality is this amount of thread isn't that great. And the adapter may have, it doesn't go immediately into the threads. But if you just had a thinner cap, then you could just simply, and that would be the same thing for the connector that Jules originally specified.
Mhm.
And I went with this because there's some flooding issues in my backyard, and I just needed to make sure that it could withstand being submerged. But
Yeah.
I'll try to get out to Menards and see if I can find some of those test caps, because they're much thinner than a normal cap you would put on PVC. And they would give I think the threads enough purchase, possibly.
Dave,
Yeah, part of the
Okay.
problem is you have to have if you're going to put it into a PVC cap, you have to have a flat cap if you're going to expect that rubber washer to seal against it.
Yeah.
And you can get those. They're called furniture grade PVC, and they come out flat, straight flat
And
Well,
you can drill in those.
And the test caps I was looking at are flat.
Okay.
What I did on my VLF antenna was I got a adapter fitting that was threaded, and I found a cap that was also threaded that was flat, and the wire comes out there. So I drilled a hole, and I used one of those cable glands that you were showing. I got it from DigiKey, and I just attached it in the hole in the clamp in the cap, and everything worked really well.
Yeah, the caps that do have some embossing and printing on the front surface, if you get a couple of sheets of sandpaper on a flat surface, you can flatten it if you need to without having any special tools.
But the furniture caps, you don't have to do that at all.
Right, agreed. But if you couldn't get those for some reason, there is the alternative of a little
I'm
handwork.
looking at even stuff that might be a little bit difficult to source. If we put the kit together ourselves,
good point.
Then you don't care if the people have a Menards nearby or anything.
Right.
We'll get you the right cap, and then you're set.
Everybody gets the same uniform stuff.
Yeah, if we can get them. I mean, we buy 250 of them, so we.
Yeah, and these stores are so spotty in what they have, and we're looking at very specific items, and each store may have some other alternative, but for a very specific application, it would make sense to just include them. But if we could just get these thinner caps, then the bulkhead RJ45 that Jules originally specified would work with no modification, which would be easiest. And I think either Tapper or anyone could drill whatever size hole was needed.
Yeah, that's the only thing is I'm really being nitpicky here and trying to eliminate the having to drill the 3/4 inch hole into a round cap, which is not, I mean, that's not too hard, but it's harder than not having to drill any hole at all. So if we could go that way, I'd love to do that. But maybe I'm just trying to make things difficult.
Well, Scotty, I'll drill 250 holes and caps for you.
Okay.
Well, there you go. You got to volunteer.
This is being recorded, right, Nathaniel?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that would be the simplest thing I did today. And when I was finished, I would know it was done, unlike any other project that I've accomplished.
Yes.
Yeah, I probably would have enjoyed that more than replacing the gutter on my shed roof.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this
because
is
I'm
said,
sure it's not done.
Dave, that was said by a true academic.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I've been looking actually on the Show Me page, and I don't see where that connector is. I see a $40 one, but I don't.
well, maybe the price went up. I don't know.
I hope it didn't go up 4 times or 3 times.
Scotty, I do need to go.
Yeah, and I have to go too. Here, Nona's not feeling well. I got to go take care of her. So, but I think we got the bottom side fixed. If maybe Jules, you have a chance to measure the threads. Is Jules still here?
Yeah, I'm here and I'll do that. Yeah.
And we could try to find a way to fix it. And if not, we can use just the regular gland nut approach if we can find one that's big enough. And or we'll take Dave up and I'll ship him 250 caps.
I'm assuming that's your cat in the background, Scotty.
Yes, the cat is deciding.
Is it Scotty's or Dave's?
Nope, the cat's now locked outside. This cat we have is 18 years old.
Ooh.
And I think there's something wrong with her because all of a sudden she's decided she is totally hungry all the time. We have 2 cats. We feed her 4 cans of cat food a day. And about dinner time, they just one of them goes crazy. And it's like you just want to strangle it because I call it auto meow. And it's meow, 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 meow. It's like a metronome, it's timed.
You had her check for diabetes?
Well, the problem is that the cat, it's a rescue cat, and she's so skittish, we can't even catch her. So I'm thinking, I don't know if we might trick her into a carrier once. But if she ever got out at the vets in the examination room, I don't know how we'd ever get her back in the carrier again, because she just, you know, it's like, what was that Calvin and Hobbes says? 4 out of the 5 ends are sharp, and they would all, you know, come out and the teeth come out, and it's like, you're not going to get that cat. You're going to have to bring a beach towel and put it over the cat. And that's what I've heard somebody, they said they use a pillowcase.
Yes.
And they put the cat in the pillowcase because they can't, it's not safe otherwise, that you get chewed up. So
Scotty, I also have an old cat, and if you need a replacement, let me know. I'll be happy to fly it out to you.
I'm thinking it this way: if the cat has diabetes or the cat has something wrong with her, well, you know, nature's going to take its course, and whatever happens to the cat does, because I can't catch her. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Hey, Scotty.
73.
Dave.
Scotty,
Take care.
yeah, Scotty,
Joe.
yeah, could you get me the dimensions of that printed circuit board used for the magnetometer?
Oh, I thought I sent that to you.
I
Okay,
didn't see
well,
it. I've been watching.
I will send you the a dimensioned drawing. How's that?
That would be super. And does that include the thickness?
Just a minute. Let me. I'll actually. I can show you what I'll send you. I want to make sure it will be good, because I thought I did that already, and obviously I spaced it out.
I haven't seen it. And also AD0RR would like it.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I've got I've a lap full of PC, whatever they are, pipe fittings here, and I might have to go down and get a 10-foot section and chop it up. So
Because I know at the Home Depot that we have here, both the Lowe's and the Home Depot had a space on the shelf for them. The Lowe's was out, but the Home Depot had them. 1.5, 2 foot.
Yeah,
deep.
and my Home
Yeah.
Depot has them. And Joe, I was going to remind you, they'll ship to store for free,
right.
and they'll have it there short order.
Boy, I tell you though, it sure is nice to be able to go down there and take things and put them together and see if it's going to work and so forth.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. Where are our electronics parts stores?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
with
really.
a Mauser and DigiKey and
I needed some Chinese finger tubing, you know, the nylon stuff that you pull and it tightens.
Right.
I had to buy a 100-foot roll from DigiKey for $31 just to get a few pieces, because there's no Fry's is gone, so I can't go there and get it anymore.
I do have one available, but it's a 2-hour drive down to Boston. But You Do It is still that kind of store. But
Yeah.
There's one here in Schenectady area.
yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Where's the fab drawing? There it is.
My local hardware store will cut whatever length you want. And I think actually for the pieces I used for the magnetometer, I picked them out of their scrap bin.
Oh,
they still
really?
charged me, but you know, it's just a good old local hardware store.
well, I could go down and grab a 10-foot piece and chop it up.
So, Joe, is this enough for you?
Sure is. Yeah, that's precisely what I need. Let me do a screen grab here. Oh gosh, it's
I can
screen
email
grab.
you the PDF,
Oh, screen grab. Got it.
so I don't need to email you anything.
Okay, let me make
Got
sure
it?
I've got that saved. Oh, come on, Paint, work.
That looks like a PADS output.
It is.
Hey,
Yeah, I've got it. Thanks, Scotty.
Okay.
I've been using PADS almost from the beginning.
All right. Well, that's definitely a PADS output.
Okay, I think I saved it somewhere.
So if you need me to send it to you, it's easy now that I am awake. So.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead and do it just to make sure. But I've got I grabbed the document. I think I've got it in a file.
Okay,
I was going to make up one. I've got some scrap acetal here. I was
Do
going
I
to make
have-
up the
Do I have
board.
your email address here? That's
And let's see, who is that that was asking about? Oh, geez, desktop. Do it in the desktop. Okay, yeah, I've got it. Who was that asking? It's a 0.
Oh, that probably me. Yeah, but I grabbed it. I did a snip off the screen there too, so I got it.
Yeah, I think I've got it too. Okay,
Yeah,
super.
appreciate it.
I don't think I have your email address here, Joe, because unless you're,
W7WX@ARRL.net.
well, that's easy enough.
That's the easiest thing in the world. Otherwise, I'm going to give you.
W7LUX@ARRL.net, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm just a DEC. I don't
Todd,
rate
did
it.
you want a copy also?
Yeah, I my screenshot, it works perfectly for me, but I appreciate it.
You have an email address that
I do. It's pretty easy. It's Todd@Christell.com.
at spell it CHRISTELL
You got it.
.com.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Magnetometer. This is the guaranteed way that you get it, because then I can't possibly forget.
I understand that.
Okay, it's off.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I do have it, Scotty.
Okay, I sent it to both of you, so
Oh, neat. Okay.
you should be getting it in maybe on or so. All right. Good input. Thanks everyone for the way to actually cut some costs down, as well as not remove any features from the magnetometer. So Nathaniel, I think in the next few days I'm going to write up a short manual for the Rev E with pictures and arrows and photograph on the back each one, describing what each one was to be used as evidence against us, so that everybody can see. And if you got that, you're really old. Anyway,
I resemble that.
Hey, I tried that at Hamvention. I put up a picture of the perpetrator of that song, and the line I used with it was, "Well, that's not really what I came to talk about." And you can watch and see how many people got that reference in the audience. Unfortunately, there was a lot more than you'd like to believe.
Right.
For you young guys, that was Alice's Restaurant from 1969. So
I've seen it performed more than once.
yeah, it's great. I think I've listened to it so many times I got it memorized. So that's pretty scary, along with the Monty Python skits that we all know and love. So
Yeah, we used to recite the whole thing in high school.
yeah, can you do the of Ulm? The guy's long name, Von Gamble Putty, whatever it is. The
I
whole
can't
long.
remember.
I can't do
But
that.
I can play the tune, and we had one guy who could recite the whole diatribe.
Yes, the good old days. Well, all right. So
Okay,
really,
Scott, I did get your email, but it's blank. But that's okay. I did a screen grab. I've got it.
Wait. So I attached that, didn't I? Maybe. See, even you're not even guaranteed when I send it that you got it, because I did not send.
It took a while to get here from Connecticut.
Like my professor used to say, you give them the books and they just eat the covers.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I did a screen grab too, so I've got it.
Okay. Well, you're going to get it again, because they're going to have it with the attachment this time. It's only the attachment's only 24K, so it's really not very big.
Yeah.
So yes, if we can figure out a really poor man's easy expedited way to hook the cable into the pipe at the top and make it waterproof. And I'm thinking that the gland nut, if we could get one big enough that we could put the nut through and the connector through, and then put a little non-waterproof coupler inside, that would maybe be the best way. Might even be cheaper,
Big glob of silicon seal.
Yeah, not even that. You have a gland nut on the outside. You have it thread into so you use Teflon tape to thread the NPT into the PVC pipe. And then you have a gland nut on the outside that has a rubber gasket that crunches down, but it doesn't have any connectors with it. It just is a cable seal. So then you put a female to female inside the pipe,
Right.
That is just a regular $2, non-waterproof type, but it's inside the pipe.
I spent a number of years in the Navy, and it was a constant battle to keep the seawater out and the fresh water in and stuff like that.
Mm.
And seawater is
Everything
nasty.
leaked. Everything leaked.
They
That was the ships and the aircraft.
Do you remember the Air France flight that went down over the Atlantic, in the middle of the Atlantic, about 15 years ago? And
Yeah,
one
the
going
one
to
that
Brazil?
piso tubes froze up on.
it took them a year and a half to find the black boxes.
Mhm.
And one of them was still sealed after, I don't know, it was under 4,000 feet of water or something for a year and a half. And the other one had some small leakage problems, but they managed to recover most of the, with the cockpit recorder, I think that was the one that leaked. The flight data recorder, they actually, it was intact. Because I've been watching this show called Mayday Air Disasters.
Mhm.
It's really good. They take all the data from the cockpit recorders and the data recorders, and they use actors, and they recreate what they assumed happened in the cockpit and on the ground at the time that the plane got lost. And not all of them are everyone's killed.
Mm.
There's a fair number of them where the pilot manages to land the plane and either everyone gets out or most of the people get out. I mean, there was one where the guy landed it in downtown Portland. The guy landed the airplane in the city. He found, miraculously, he found a city park, and he managed to steer the airplane between the big trees. I think it killed only 8 people. And it's like you go, because, and they have the cockpit recording of the guy, trying to figure out where to land in a city with houses everywhere. It's like it could have been a total disaster if you land a big plane like that. I forget what kind of plane it was. Over 100 people on board. Can you imagine trying to land that in a housing neighborhood?
Yeah, with a bunch of fuel on board.
Oh, with a bunch of fuel on board. Because actually, it was. I'm trying to think. It was on landing, so he probably didn't have as much fuel as he had taken off.
Right. He ran out of fuel.
He ran out of fuel, which is why he was. And they said that was really that's what saved the people, is that there was no fire.
Yeah, it was a
There no fuel.
DCA.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Boy.
You remember the DC-10 that landed, I think, in Iowa? That the only controls they had were the throttles.
Yeah.
And so, I think most of the people survived.
Did they land it in a field, or did they make it to an airport?
No, made it to an airport. He actually was.
Yeah, I think it was an
on
abandoned
runway.
military. I think it was abandoned military base, wasn't it? Military air
It
base.
could have been, but
But throttle control
didn't
was all he
quite
had.
make it to the ground safely. But most of the
Right.
people on the plane survived.
Yep.
They had lost all hydraulics. All they had was throttle.
Yep.
Yeah, so it reminds me of the one. It was I think it was a Bombardier. It was a turboprop, and they lost a propeller, and it cut through. It flew off. It was a right-hand wing, and it cut off the prop cut through the belly of the plane, right in front of the wing, and jammed all the controls, because that's where all the mechanical controls went through there. So the autopilot worked, but none of their manual controls worked because they were all jammed. Well, it turned out they were the cables run through the chassis of the plane, and it had bent the chassis up and captured the cables. So they were able to work the controls back and forth and get enough control that they could have. They had about 3 degrees of control, and they managed to land the plane with that. It's amazing. Anyway,
Hey, when your life's at stake, you try real hard to find a solution.
try real hard. And I mean, these guys were firstly the pilots. He's pulling on the control and it won't move. And then they get the co-pilot and the pilot both pulling on it. And they, oh look, hey, wait, I felt it move. And then they work it back and forth, and they get enough control that they can just steer the plane enough to land it, which is kind of like the guy with throttle control. It's like, how do you run the plane like that? And I think, wasn't the other, though, it was in Alaska, they took off from, not from Kodiak, but from Cold Bay in the Aleutians, and they were flying to Seattle. And they got out over the ocean, and I forget what jammed, but they had the engines were jammed on full throttle. They could not slow them down. So they managed to turn the thing around and head back toward Anchorage. And as they got in, and they lost one engine, the other three engines were, it was a 4-engine plane, the other 3 engines were on full throttle. They were going to shut down, they lost number 4, so they're going to shut down number 1, but then they said, no, you can't do that because all the electrical and hydraulics are run off of number one. You don't want to do that. So what they did is they got in on the approach and they killed all the engines and they landed without any controls whatsoever, but they were at like 150 knots coming into the runway, which is way over speed. And for even the Anchorage runway, which was, I think, 1,050 meters, it was a really long runway, but they were still coming in too fast, and they managed to stop the thing. I don't know how, because when they shut off all the engines, they didn't have any brakes. So how do you? And you got no power to reverse. But they made it. Everybody got off. So it was truly
The one I'll be amazed if the recorders didn't leak. It's the Malaysian Airlines one that disappeared.
Have they found that one yet?
If they ever find that one, we'll see if they leak.
Yeah, because that's been how many years now?
That's many years. Amazing that they had the engine telemetry to at least get some idea from.
Well, what's amazing is that they found the French Airways one. That I mean, they because the black boxes only transmit for what, a month. So here they are a year and a half later, they're searching blind, I mean, radio blind. They're just sending down unmanned subs and looking at the bottom, and they just stumbled on it. But the Malaysian one, they don't even know where to look, do they?
No, it flew off into the night.
Well, because there was some say that it flew over to the northeast, some say it turned left and went out into the Indian Ocean.
Right. Yeah, the best evidence shows it went into the Indian Ocean. That's what the engine telemetry was indicating.
Okay.
That I forget who made the engines, but they had a separate telemetry system wired up on the plane. And it was sending back data for quite a while.
Oh, good luck. It's a miracle they find any of that stuff under all that water.
Yeah.
Scotty, I'm going to say 73.
Yeah, me too. I got to go.
Yeah, same here, 73 guys.
Thanks for
73.
everything. We'll see you
Have a
next
good
week.
evening.
Thanks, everybody.